everyone. Y'all are busy. You do a lot. And I really appreciate you letting me come speak today. So I know several of you might be familiar with smart reading. We have, I know, at least one reader, Truman, who has read with us in the past. But I'm just here, I'm going to give you the history, the overview, what we do, and what's sort of happening right now with SMART. As it has been for a program that runs with volunteers sitting right next to a child inside a school. The last 3 years have been a little wonky for us. So SMART was launched in 1992 with 8 original sites, 4 of them being here in Central Oregon, and 3 of those 4 still operate. The only one that isn't operating is Evergreen Elementary here in Redmond, because that school doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, we had Bear Creek and Bend, Lapine Elementary, and Sisters Elementary, and those 3 schools all still have SMART programs running in them. So we're on our 31st year, which is pretty awesome. Our mission is to spark joy and opportunity through the magic of a shared book. We do not intend to teach kids to read. We are not teachers. We're not professionals. That's the school's job. They are trained to do that. We are just there to make it a fun, positive experience for the kiddos, because we know that if they enjoy reading and they're having fun with it, they're likely to continue doing it. And if it's something that they're like, ugh, someone's gonna sit here with me and make me do this, like, no, we want it to be fun and exciting and just a really positive experience for them. We read with pre-K to 3rd grade students. When the program started, it was really 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders, and as many of you probably know, research shows that the earlier you can read with kids, the better. So we really moved down, and most of our programs in Central Oregon are with pre-K and kindergarten students, because we know that early intervention is really important. Students are selected differently at each site. So if here in Central Oregon, like I said, we mostly read with kinders and pre-K, and we read to every single kiddo. So right now we're reading at Hugh Hartman Elementary here in Redmond, and we read with all 3 kinder classes at that school. Most of our programs are like that. For the few programs that aren't, where they select individual kids, the teachers and the administrators get to do that, and they might select kids for a variety of reasons. Maybe they just need one-on-one time with a caring adult. Maybe they just need more access to books. Maybe they do need help with reading, and this is going to help grow their confidence. So we let the teachers decide that, and we read for 1 hour, about 1 hour every week. Each site is a little different, but from a volunteer commitment standpoint, we say we're reading for 1 hour a week. With each individual kiddo, it's about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the site. You may wonder, like, well, you only go to 3rd grade. The 3rd grade reading benchmark is really important. That's where kids stop learning to read and start reading to learn. And if they're not reading and reaching that 3rd grade benchmark, they're going to need much more specific intervention than SMART can offer. And there's so much research out there about this 3rd grade reading benchmark. There's research that shows that children who don't reach that benchmark by 3rd grade are more likely to be incarcerated. There's health determinants. Teen pregnancies are higher for kids who haven't reached that 3rd grade reading benchmark, which is kind of crazy to think that this one little thing can change the trajectory of their life. COVID is kind of a bummer, as everybody knows. So we were in the middle of a reading year and had to stop everything. And weren't allowed back in schools for a couple of years. We were actually really lucky. Last year, we were able to read in person at Hugh Hartman here in Redmond pretty much the whole year, I think. It's one of the first schools where we were able to get back in person to read with kids, because Lisa, the principal, we've worked with her for years, and she's like, I know this program works. It's so important. Like, how can we make this happen? Some of the really good things, I guess, that came out of COVID were that our program sort of expanded. So in the past, all we did was read one-on-one with kids. We did it in this really specific way. And when you couldn't do that anymore, we were like, okay, how are we going to survive as an organization? So we expanded to do virtual reading, which I can tell you many volunteers were like, nope, not going to do that. It's not going to be the same feeling. We did both classroom read-alouds and one-on-one with kiddos virtually, and it was way more engaging than I ever thought. I read to a class every single week in Sun River from my computer in my office, and they were adorable, and I got that same giddy feeling going into the classroom every week to read with them, and they asked questions, and they were engaged, and it was amazing. We also created 2 online libraries. One that has about 250 videos of pre-recorded videos of volunteers from around the state reading. And I don't know, Truman, did you do one of those videos? I thought you did. So we have this library that kids can access via phone, computer, teachers can use it in their classroom, and it's got all of our book selections. There's in Spanish, we have dual language, we have chapter books, we have pre-K books, we have everything on there. And it's just a volunteer reading to the kids. So in the absence of being there in person, we're still getting that out there. And I can tell you, I have 2 little ones. They want to watch them all the time. And it's adorable. We also have an online story room where we physically scanned books into this computer process that one of our generous volunteers in Portland made for us. And you can go and you can select a book and the pages actually turn and you can read it. So when we were doing virtual reading with kids, we used that story room so the teacher could put the book up on the screen really, really big. And then my face would be down here in the corner reading, but they could see the words and the pictures. And then you just press a button and the page turns. It's adorable. Yes. So there were some really good things that for SMART that came out of COVID. We don't plan to go back to virtual reading. Our ideal is in person, but it's actually something that we can use for those sites. We serve a site in Long Creek out in Grant County. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that community. It's a very, very small community. We serve every kid pre-K to 3rd grade there, and I think this year it's 9 students. There's not a lot of bodies for volunteers there. And so that's something we've talked about with them of, okay, if we can't find enough volunteers, or if we're not going to do like a classroom style reading, maybe we just zoom into the classroom and read to them that way. So there's some, even though we want to be there in person, we at least have some more options now than we used to. Our books. So SMART provides all the books in the program. We are just guests in the school. We buy them directly from distributors like Interstate and Scholastic. This year in Central Oregon, we'll give away almost 15,000 books. So we have a lot of books that we're buying throughout the year across the state. And we make sure that we have a good selection. So we have your standard, and I brought some show and tell. So we have your standard, really popular Mo Willems, Pinkalicious, high interest books that kids are gonna really want to pick out. We have nonfiction informational text. So Who Would Win? Very popular with all the kiddos. And a wide range of nonfiction. National Geographic has great nonfiction books if you're looking for any. We also have Spanish and dual language books. So here in Redmond at Hugh Hartman, 2 of the 3 classes that we're reading with are dual immersion classrooms. And so we want to make sure that for those kids and for any kid that may speak Spanish at home, they have the opportunity to be able to read the book with their families. So we have a lot of dual language and just straight Spanish books. We are getting more dual language books that aren't Spanish. So this year, I think in the collection, we have one that's in Arabic and one that's Somalian. These books are usually more expensive. A lot of dual language and Spanish books are published by specialized publishers, and which is insane. But we do our best to find the best quality and high interest for the kiddos so that they can enjoy them with their families as well. And then we also have what we call mirror window books. Is anybody familiar with that title? So a mirror window is what we consider a mirror would be you looking in a mirror and reading a book that's your own life experiences, environment, and a window is maybe a window into a world that you haven't experienced. So we've got many books that fall under that. For the most part, we really try to find own voice authors. So those are books that are written by someone of the same culture or race or ethnicity of the book characters. So this is a book about Festival of Colors. We have a book about an Inca trail adventure. And really just trying to make sure that our kiddos have access to a wide variety of books while they're in our program. Numbers. So currently we're in 22 sites throughout Central Oregon. Our office is located in Bend, and we cover Crook, Deschutes, Grant, Jefferson, Harney, and Northern Klamath counties. And then we also cover 7 counties in the Gorge. But that's a whole other thing. That's a new thing for us. And so right now we're serving just about 1,100 kiddos in Central Oregon. And like I said, we're going to give away 15,000 books. Here in Redmond, we're serving 65 kiddos at Hugh Hartman. And so far this year, with 18 volunteers, and so far this year we've given away about 300 books. We go through mid-May, and the kiddos get to take home 2 books a month to keep, and they get to choose. Like, it's very child-driven, so when we're reading with them, they get to pick the books they want to read. And I'm sure Truman could tell you, sometimes they want to read the same book week after week, and that's okay. There's lots of research that shows why that's important for kids. But we try to have a good selection, and the kids get to choose what books they want to bring home and keep, and they get 14 throughout the year. So SMART is almost exclusively funded by generous contributions from local folks. We have individuals, businesses, foundations, family foundations, organizations like the Kiwanis. We get a sliver of government funding, which in my 6.5 years at SMART has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, like everybody's. But we provide all of the books, all of the materials. We train all the volunteers. Our volunteers we could not do this without our volunteers. There's 2 staff that work on those 22 sites throughout this 5.5-ish counties here in Central Oregon, and the rest is all volunteer driven. So we couldn't do it without them. We do have an event coming up in a few weeks for anybody that's looking for a fun time. I have some information about it. It's called the Smart Zip, and it's at Tetherow on the 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's super fun. It's not a sit-down gala with a paddle race. It's not boring. It's just fun. There's an open bar and yummy food. And it's just a great way to support SMART. Questions? Yes?
Highlight, do you use that book? It was always great in the doctor's office to read.
Oh, the magazine?
Yeah.
You know, when I first started, we tried a magazine. We tried to integrate magazines into the collection, and they just didn't last very long, like physically, because kids one kid might read this book and then say, like, oh, I don't want to bring it home, and then like throw it back in the stack. And the magazines were just, they weren't durable enough, but they also didn't seem to be as high of interest for kids. I think there's just too much happening in them.
How about comic books? My aunt used to give us one every month, and we look forward to it.
Yes, we do have,
Chip
so
and Dale.
most comic books are a little bit older, so our like second and third graders, and maybe even our first graders, have some version of a comic book. A lot of people don't like this book, but Captain Underpants is really popular with kids. There's a peanut butter and jelly comic book that's a little bit younger that kindergartners can enjoy. Those fall under the high interest. Like, they're really easy for kids to like focus on that picture and whatever word bubbles coming out. And I have a 5-year-old who loves like Dog Man books. Like, those are also very popular in our program. Yeah.
Did you say at Hugh Hartman you do just pre-K and K, or do you do all the way through third grade?
We do just the kindergartners at Hugh Hartman.
Oh, okay.
So there's I think it's about 65
Okay.
kinders there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I know you said this, but I'm going to emphasize it. The kids pick the books to read and the book to take home. That's twice a month, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not every week, it's every other week. And then they write their name in the book. There's a place, usually there's a, what you call a sticker
Yes.
that has their place for their name. And I remember
Yes.
always saying, now use your best writing because you're going to keep this. I have a
Yes.
feeling it's a way for them to indicate to other siblings, this is my book. And that's what makes it so important to them.
Yes, and it's just that idea of ownership. Like, this is theirs. Like, they get to keep this forever, and their name is in it. And our stickers now have actually access to that online pre-recorded library. So every book that they take home, they have a little reminder of like, oh hey, I can go on to this and watch some videos. And a lot of the videos are the books that we have in our program, so they could find someone reading that exact book. Yeah.
So is that link to your online stuff available to anyone?
It is not. So publishers are really stingy with their books. So it's password protected, which is on the sticker, so that kids and teachers and everyone. This is about the 3rd year we've used this now, so it's kind of old hat for them. But they have to enter a password, and that's how we get away with it because it's not public. But once these books go home with kids, you know, they're out there in the world, and you know, a lot of teachers and various people have access to it. But yes, they get a little stingy with their books. Yeah. Yes.
When you enter school, does the school pay to have you guys go there, or are you total volunteers?
No, we are totally volunteer, just guests in the school. At this point with our 22 sites, we're pretty much at capacity here in Central. But how it would normally work, we were really lucky. We've been in several schools in Redmond since the early days. And usually a principal will like glom onto us. So Desiree, who used to be the principal at PreK when it was the Early Learning Center, she was also the principal, I think, at Lynch before then, where we were, and then we kind of moved with her to PreK when it was going to be that, and then so we have to be invited in, and you know, the scheduling, like Truman can't read this year because right now reading is happening. It happens during this meeting, but and they have to want us and be able to fit us into the schedule, which is sometimes the hardest part. I will say for this year, reading does happen on Wednesdays. I think it starts at 12:30 to 1:30. So I know you all have a prior commitment, but that usually changes year to year. So we start up in October and we go through May. And we're off on, all the school breaks, but it's 1 hour a week, and we're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for leadership council members, which is sort of our local board. It's not a governing board. They just help with outreach, recruitment, fundraising, that sort of thing. And yeah, I'd be happy to answer any other questions. Yeah.
At what age are kids diagnosed with dyslexia?
I don't know that answer.
My question was if they are, what is anything special done? So if
Yeah.
they haven't been, you can't do anything special.
Yeah, and we really aren't experts in that either. So I think if that were the case, there probably would be someone who has specialized training would work with that kiddo to help with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So mine isn't a question, just kind of a little quick story. So I was in kindergarten in 1974, and I didn't have an interest as a little child that I would call into books. I had two older brothers that I wanted to be a boy with them and hang out with them. I could do things better than them. And it was my kindergarten teacher. I saw a book, and it had a very hungry caterpillar. And I went straight to that book, and I remember doing it and going there and opening it and learning to read it. And at the end of the school year, that book, my teacher gave it to me and wrote in there that I have to this day, and I have a stuffed, in my office at work, I have the stuffed very hungry caterpillar with the little fruits and
yeah.
But that book started me off to love reading so much that to this day, I'm proud to say I read one book a week. So and that's what I've been doing it since I was a young kid. And at that time, it was like when you got finished with the book, but become into my adulthood, I am to this day so addicted to reading that I am. And it's every week I get a new book, and I have piles of them at my home waiting for the week that I get to them. But it was the Very Hungry Caterpillar.
That is still such a popular book.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of amazing that books can span, not that long, but a long, a long time. Yeah. I love it.
Jennifer, do you have a website to SMART that people can connect to?
Sure, yes. So it's really easy. It's www.smartreading.org. And you can find out all about SMART on there. I have some flyers and brochures and postcards, and so if anybody wants to chat me up, I'll be over there.
Truman, would you like to come up? So if you don't know, the Kiwanis Club of Redmond has supported SMART for a very, very long time. And so we have a gift for you guys today.
Oh.
Yeah. We're giving $250 to the program.
All right.
Yes. And then this is a pen from an artist here locally. Kiwanis, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, guys, yes, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll ring the bell. Thanks.